There comes a moment in every person's life where they look around and realize things are not where they hoped they would be. Not because they are not capable, not because they lack talent, but because life has gotten messy. Responsibilities, emotions, work, relationships, and habits collide, and suddenly it becomes easier to avoid rather than confront. But avoidance is not just procrastination. Avoidance is self-abandonment. Every time you say, "I'll deal with it later," you silently teach yourself that your well-being is not a priority. Today, I want to talk to you about taking back control, not in a harsh, overwhelming burst of energy, but through steady, intentional organization of your life. And I want to be clear, organizing your life is not about perfection. It's about reclaiming your identity, your peace, and your future. Let's go step by step. There is a subtle illusion most people live under, and it's the belief that avoidance is harmless. That pushing something aside until later is simply a neutral choice, but avoidance is never neutral. It always takes something from you, and the longer it sits, the more it consumes. Your time, your mental clarity, your self-respect. When you avoid organizing your life, whether it's cleaning your space, addressing your finances, returning that difficult message, or confronting your emotions, you begin to slowly disconnect from yourself. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, gradually, like dust settling in the corners of a room you never walk into anymore. And before you know it, the mess is no longer just outside of you, it's inside. Think about something you've been putting off. It could be something small like folding laundry, or something larger like scheduling a doctor's appointment, or confronting a person who has hurt you. Notice the feeling that rises when you think about it. Some people feel a tightness in their chest, some feel their minds suddenly wander to distractions, and others feel that familiar weight in their stomach. That reaction is not because the task itself is unbearable. The task is rarely the issue. What you're actually avoiding is the emotional discomfort tied to it. Maybe it reminds you of responsibility, and responsibility reminds you of pressure. Maybe doing it means acknowledging that you've been neglecting something important. Maybe acting on it means making a change that scares you. So instead of dealing with the task, you avoid, and for a moment, avoidance brings relief, but it's temporary and the cost begins immediately. Stress is often the first cost. A task that could have taken 10 minutes starts living in your mind rent free. You think about it while driving, while scrolling on your phone, while trying to sleep. The unfinished becomes a shadow that follows you. And the more you avoid, the more powerful that shadow becomes. Eventually, stress turns into anxiety. You start feeling overwhelmed even though nothing has changed except your lack of action. Then comes self-criticism. You start asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this? And now avoidance is not just a habit. It's shaping how you see yourself. Resentment may follow, and most people direct that resentment inward. It sounds like, I should be better than this. Or everyone else seems to manage, why can't I? But you are not struggling because you are weak or incapable. You are struggling because avoidance became a coping strategy. A coping strategy that may have helped when life felt too heavy, but now it's holding your life in place. Avoidance protects you from discomfort in the short term, but in the long term, it creates a life where discomfort never leaves. Take something as common as avoiding opening mail. A person may be worried to see overdue notices, so they delay it. Each day they avoid looking, the fear grows, interest increases, late fees accumulate, and now the situation is bigger and more intimidating than it originally was. The stress that could have lasted 5 minutes now lasts weeks. This is how avoidance multiplies your suffering without you realizing, and it goes beyond tasks. People avoid their emotions too. They avoid acknowledging loneliness, disappointment, anger, and grief. They avoid conversations where the truth might change a relationship. They avoid making decisions that require courage, but when you silence your emotions, they don't disappear. They find other ways to express themselves through fatigue, irritability, anxiety, distraction, procrastination, and sometimes even physical pain. So the first real step in organizing your life is not about planners, schedules, or productivity hacks. Those tools mean nothing if avoidance still controls your behavior. The first step is acknowledging, with honesty and compassion, that avoidance is costing you peace, energy, confidence, and progress. This realization is not meant to make you feel guilty. It's meant to give you clarity, because when you can see something clearly, you can change it. The moment you recognize that avoidance is draining you, mentally, emotionally, physically, you create space for a new way of approaching life. You begin to understand that the stress of doing the task is almost always less than the stress of avoiding it. You realize that your mind is not at war with the task, it's at war with the fear surrounding the task. And once you see that, you can begin taking small steps with compassion rather than force. You can begin reclaiming your life, not by doing everything at once, but by simply choosing not to run from yourself anymore. When people decide to organize their life, they often imagine a dramatic transformation. They picture cleaning everything in one day, changing every habit overnight, completely reinventing themselves in a single burst of motivation. But that approach almost always fails, not because the person is weak, but because the human mind does not respond well to being overwhelmed. When everything feels chaotic, the instinct is to freeze. So before progress can happen, you must understand that real change begins small, very small. Nothing meaningful changes all at once. There is a common pattern among those who feel stuck. They try to fix too many areas at the same time. They want to repair their relationships, heal their emotional history, clean their house, restart their routines, gain financial control, improve their diet, and become more disciplined, all simultaneously. That ambition may come from a genuine desire to improve, but it quickly turns into pressure, and pressure turns into paralysis. Imagine walking into a room that is completely cluttered from floor to ceiling. You wouldn't know where to start. The overwhelm becomes so loud that your mind tells you, do it later. But if you pick one corner, one drawer, one section, suddenly the task becomes possible. The same principle applies to your life. You cannot tackle every problem you've been avoiding at once, but you can choose one area and begin there. And the beauty of starting with one area is that progress in one place creates emotional momentum. When you clean one part of your environment, your mind feels lighter. When you take care of one responsibility, your self-respect increases. When you complete one task you've been avoiding, your anxiety decreases. That momentum is powerful. It is not just productivity, it is identity building. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to believe, maybe I am capable. And that belief is the foundation of change. So ask yourself, what is the area in your life that is currently shouting the loudest for your attention? It may be your physical space, may be your room, your desk, or your car. It may be your schedule. You constantly feel rushed, scattered, or unprepared. It may be your finances, unopened emails, unpaid bills, unclear spending, or it may be emotional disorganization, unresolved resentment, unprocessed grief, or a lack of boundaries. Pick one, just one, and give it your full focus for now. Not everything, not a complete life overhaul, just one domain. If your environment is the issue, start by clearing a surface you see every day. Not the entire room, just one surface. The place your eyes land when you wake up or walk in. When that area becomes clean, your brain feels safe. It feels like there is control. It feels like you are not drowning, and that creates the inner stability needed to address the next area. If your schedule is disorganized, don't try to manage an entire weekly plan. Start by planning tomorrow, just tomorrow. Decide one or two things that matter most and protect that time. When the next day arrives, do it again. You will notice your mind starts anticipating structure instead of reacting to chaos. If your finances are overwhelming, don't try to solve everything at once. Start by simply knowing your numbers, awareness before action, clarity before strategy. Even if the numbers scare you, the clarity will set you free more than ignorance ever could. This approach requires patience, yes, but patience is not weakness. It is maturity. Maturity is understanding that growth is cumulative, not instantaneous, There is a story of a person who wanted to change their entire life. They felt lost, overwhelmed, and exhausted. They tried everything at once and failed repeatedly. Then someone told them, clean one drawer. That sounded too simple, too small, but they did it, and something shifted. The act of bringing order to one drawer gave them a sense of personal power they hadn't felt in years. That single drawer became a shelf, then a closet, then a room, then a schedule, then boundaries, then goals. Their life did not change because they worked harder. It changed because they started where they were, not where they wished they were. You don't need to solve everything today. You just need to begin where you are, with what you can manage, consistently, not perfectly. And one day, without dramatic announcements or overwhelming effort, you will look around and realize your life feels lighter, clearer, more grounded. Not because everything changed at once, but because you had the courage to start with one small change and stay with it. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to organize their lives is that the tasks they need to do feel too big, not necessarily because they are complex, but because the brain interprets big as threatening. When something feels overwhelming, your nervous system reacts as if it's danger, even when it's something harmless like cleaning your closet or writing an email. Your heart may not race, but your mind withdraws, resists, avoids. This is why micro steps are not just helpful, they are psychologically necessary. When you look at a task as a whole, your mind instantly calculates the energy, the time, the potential discomfort, and the emotional effort it may require. If it perceives the task as too heavy, the instinct is to push it away. But when you break that same task down into something so small that your brain cannot claim it's a threat, you disarm the resistance. You create a way forward. For example, imagine needing to clean your entire kitchen. If you say to yourself, I'm going to clean the kitchen, your brain immediately pulls up memories of how long it took before, how tiring it felt, how many steps were involved. It becomes a mental mountain. But if you instead say, I will wash just 5 dishes, something shifts. The task becomes small enough that there is no emotional battle. 5 dishes is doable, and here's the key. Once you start, momentum carries you. You might wash more than 5, but if you only wash 5, you have still succeeded. You kept your promise to yourself, and that matters far more than the quantity of the action. The same applies to emotional tasks. Imagine needing to have a difficult conversation. If you approach the entire conversation all at once, your mind may panic. So break it down. The first step could simply be writing down what you hope to express. Not delivering it yet, just writing it. Then the next step might be reading it aloud to yourself. Step by step, the emotional weight becomes something you can hold. Micro steps are powerful because they allow you to bypass the perfectionism that often stops people before they even begin. Many people don't struggle with effort. They struggle with the fear of not doing something right, well enough, or completely. Micro steps change the metric. The measurement is no longer perfection, it is progress. And progress is sustainable. There is also a deeper psychological gain. Every time you complete a micro step, you build trust with yourself. Many people who struggle with organization or follow through are not lazy. They are disconnected from their own sense of personal reliability. They've made promises to themselves before. I'll start tomorrow. I'll get it done this weekend. I'll fix this soon. And then avoided the task. Over time, the brain learns not to believe itself. Micro steps rebuild that trust. They allow you to prove to yourself, in small and consistent ways, that you follow through. And once self-trust returns, your confidence rises naturally. Think of habits like brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate with yourself about whether you brush. You don't wait for motivation. It is simply part of your life. The reason it's easy is because it requires little effort, little emotional activation, and has been repeated so many times that it feels automatic. Micro steps allow new behaviors to eventually become this automatic, not instantly, but gradually through repetition that doesn't exhaust you. Even when organizing your physical environment, micro steps change everything. If your room is messy, the goal is not to clean the room. The goal is to pick up one item, one, then another, or clean for 3 minutes, just 3 minutes, and then stop. If you continue, wonderful. If you stop, you still moved forward. The progress will accumulate, and over time the room becomes clean not because of one intense effort, but because of many small, manageable ones. And here is something important. Micro steps require patience with yourself. You are not just cleaning or sorting or planning. You are retraining your brain. You are teaching your mind that life does not need to be overwhelming. You are slowly removing the idea that everything must be handled all at once or not at all. When you break tasks into micro steps, you reclaim your power, not through force but through consistency, not through dramatic transformation but through gentle persistence. You remind yourself that progress is not defined by speed or intensity. It is defined by direction. And as long as you are moving forward, even in the smallest steps, you are not stuck. You are changing. There is a common misunderstanding when it comes to changing your life. The belief that you need to feel inspired, energized, or highly motivated before taking action. Many people wait for that right moment when they feel ready. They wait for clarity, for emotional strength, for the perfect mood, but motivation is unpredictable. It rises and falls with your energy, your environment, your stress level, your hormones, your sleep. If your life depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. You will move one day and stall for 10. Real, sustainable change does not come from motivation. It comes from routine, consistent, structured patterns that do not depend on how you feel in the moment. Routines are not exciting, they are not dramatic. They do not feel powerful at first, but they are stable, and stability is what your life needs in order to remain organized. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and ask yourself, do I feel motivated to do this today? You don't hype yourself up with music or give yourself a speech. You do it because it's simply part of your life. It's non-negotiable. It does not require emotional debate. Now imagine if the other things you struggle with, cleaning, exercising, budgeting, planning, felt as simple and automatic as brushing your teeth. Routine makes that possible. The reason routines are so effective is because they reduce the mental load of decision making. When you don't have a routine, every action becomes a decision. Should I clean now or later? Should I cook or order food? Should I work on my goals or relax? The constant choice exhausts your willpower. You burn energy deciding instead of doing. A routine removes the question. The action becomes automatic. But some people resist routines because they fear feeling restricted. They worry that structure means losing freedom. Yet the truth is the opposite. Disorder is what limits freedom. When your life is unstructured, you are constantly putting out small fires. Lost items, missed deadlines, rushed mornings, last-minute stress. That chaos consumes your time and drains your emotional energy. Structure, ironically, creates freedom. It gives you more time, more clarity, more control, and more space to rest without guilt. Starting a routine doesn't mean you need to plan every minute of your day. That is extreme and exhausting. Instead, choose a few anchor habits, small actions that happen at consistent times. Maybe every morning you spend 5 minutes tidying your space. Maybe every evening you plan tomorrow's top 3 priorities. Maybe after every meal you wash your dishes immediately. These small anchors stabilize your day, like weights holding a tent in place during wind. And routine is not just for your physical environment. Emotional and mental routines matter just as much. For example, checking in with yourself at the end of the day, asking what drained you, what supported you, and what you need tomorrow, and prevent emotional clutter the same way cleaning prevents physical clutter. Even something as simple as journaling for 3 minutes or taking a quiet walk without your phone can act as an emotional reset. The key is consistency, not intensity. If you try to overhaul your lifestyle overnight, you will burn out. The nervous system does not adapt well to sudden, dramatic changes, but when you introduce small routines slowly, your mind begins to trust them. They become familiar, predictable, safe, and eventually automatic. There will be days where it feels boring, days where you are tired, days where the routine feels pointless, but this is where something profound happens. Every time you follow through anyway, even when it's not exciting, you strengthen your identity. You prove to yourself that you are reliable, that you keep your promises, that your life is not controlled by temporary emotions. Consider people who seem calm, grounded, or put together. They are not like that because life is easier for them. They simply rely on structure instead of emotion. They have created systems that support them, systems that remain steady even when life becomes unpredictable, and that steadiness is where peace comes from. When you rely on motivation, your sense of self rises and falls. When you build routines, you develop a quiet, steady confidence that does not disappear when life feels heavy. And that kind of confidence is the foundation for every other change you want to make. Even the smallest routine can change the way you move through your day. Because routine is not just about doing tasks. It is about reclaiming control from chaos and choosing consistency where your life once felt uncertain. Physical clutter is never just physical. It is emotional, psychological, and often historical. The objects around you tell a story about how you have been living, what you have been avoiding, and where your energy is going. When your environment is cluttered, your mind receives a constant message that there is unfinished business. Even if you try to ignore it, even if you say you've learned to live with it, the clutter silently pulls at your attention. It is like background noise that never stops, and over time, that noise becomes exhaustion. A messy space does not just take up physical room, it takes up mental space. Studies have shown that clutter increases cortisol, the stress hormone. It becomes harder to focus, harder to relax, and harder to think clearly when the environment around you feels chaotic. Your surroundings shape your internal state more than you realize. Imagine trying to rest while your mind is busy remembering everything that hasn't been put away. Imagine trying to work while your eyes keep landing on piles, stacks, or scattered belongings. Your brain is constantly trying to process the visual information around you. When there is too much visual noise, your mind never fully settles. This is why organizing your life must include your environment. You cannot create internal peace while living in external chaos. And yet, many people feel ashamed or overwhelmed by clutter. They think the mess says something about their character or effort. But clutter is often a symptom, not a flaw. It may reflect a period of sadness, burnout, busyness, instability, or emotional struggle. It may reflect seasons where survival took priority over order. So instead of judging yourself, approach your space with compassion. You are not cleaning a room, you are reconnecting with yourself. Start with one small area, something you see every day. It could be your bedside table, your desk, your bathroom counter, your entryway. Choose a place that influences the tone of your day. When you wake up and see a clean surface, your mind experiences relief. When you go to bed in a room that feels orderly, your body can relax. The goal is not to make your space look impressive. The goal is for your space to feel supportive. As you begin removing items, you may notice emotions surface. Sometimes an object carries a memory you are not ready for. Sometimes letting go of something feels like letting go of a part of your identity or a version of yourself you're still attached to. It is common to hold onto things because they remind you of who you were or who you hoped you would become. Be gentle with yourself here. The purpose is not to throw everything away. The purpose is to let go of what weighs on you, what drains you, what no longer fits your life today. Ask yourself simple, grounded questions. Do I use this? Does this support the life I'm trying to create? Does this bring me peace or stress? If an item only holds guilt, obligation, or old pain, it is not serving you. Letting it go is not failure. It is an act of emotional maturity. As the physical space becomes clearer, you will notice something subtle but powerful. Your thoughts become clearer. Your energy lifts. Your breath feels deeper. When your environment becomes simplified, your nervous system relaxes. The mind and the space communicate with each other. Clutter says there is too much. Order says you are safe. You may also notice your behavior shift. When your space is clean, you are more likely to maintain other habits. You may feel more motivated to eat well, to move your body, to plan your day, to take care of yourself. A supportive environment nudges you toward better choices without forcing them. Remember, you are not aiming for perfection. You are creating harmony, a space where your mind can focus, rest, and breathe, where you do not have to fight your surroundings just to function, a space that reflects respect for yourself, your time, and your well-being. Removing physical clutter is not just a task, it is a form of healing. It is a declaration that you deserve room to exist, room to think, room to grow, and as your environment opens, so will you. In the world we live in now, our digital lives often hold just as much weight as our physical ones. We carry our entire world in our pockets. Messages, reminders, memories, relationships, responsibilities. And yet, many people completely overlook how digital clutter affects their mental state. The notifications that constantly pop up, the endless emails, the apps stacked across multiple screens, the overflowing photo gallery, the social feeds that never end. These are not harmless inconveniences. They create mental noise, they fracture attention, they drain energy that you don't even realize is being taken from you. When your phone is constantly buzzing, lighting up, demanding your awareness, your mind never has the chance to settle. You may not think about it consciously, but your nervous system responds. A notification triggers curiosity, stress, anticipation, or distraction. Every time you reach for your phone, your mind shifts gears. And every shift costs energy. You might wonder why you feel drained even after doing nothing. Often, it's because your attention has been pulled in 100 directions without your consent. Digital disorganization also creates a subtle sense of being behind. Unread messages signal unfinished conversations. Unopened emails signal obligations waiting to be addressed. Saved posts you never look at, screenshots you don't delete, to-do lists buried in apps you forget to check. These are modern forms of unfinished business. Your brain keeps track of all of it, even when you're not thinking about it directly. The clutter becomes background stress. This is why organizing your digital life is essential. It is not about minimalism or aesthetic perfection. It is about reclaiming your attention and emotional presence. It is about removing the constant sense that you're late, behind, or missing something. Start with notifications, not all of them, just the ones that interrupt your peace. Most apps are designed to keep you engaged for the app's benefit, not yours. Turn off notifications that do not serve you. You should be choosing when you look at your phone, not being summoned by it. When you remove unnecessary alerts, your mind will feel quieter almost immediately. You will notice you can think longer without distraction. You will notice you are more present in your day rather than reacting to interruptions. Next, look at your home screen. If every app is calling for your attention, your mind has no focal point. Choose only the apps you need daily and move the rest into folders or off your home screen entirely. Out of sight truly can be out of mind. The goal is not to eliminate access, just to eliminate the constant visual clutter that pulls your awareness in directions you didn't choose. Then, address your inbox, not all at once, but gently and realistically. You don't need to clear every email. Start with unsubscribing from what you no longer read. A few minutes a day creates noticeable relief. When your inbox stops filling with noise, you regain a sense of control. Even deleting just 10 old emails can give your mind a small release. Your photo gallery is another emotional space. Many people keep thousands of photos they never look at, reminders of past moments, relationships, or even pain. Begin slowly. Delete what feels heavy or unnecessary. You will not erase your memories. You are simply creating space for your life as it is now, not only as it was before. Social media requires special awareness. It is designed to make you compare, absorb, consume, react. Ask yourself, does what I see here make me feel inspired, informed, at peace, or drained, anxious, and inadequate? Curate your input. Your mental environment matters just as much as your physical one. Follow what supports your emotional health. Remove what makes you shrink. The purpose of digital organization is not control for the sake of control. It is to create clarity where chaos once lived. When you reduce digital noise, your mind becomes sharper. Your emotional energy becomes more stable. You can think, decide, and rest more easily. This is not about perfection. It is about peace. It is about choosing what deserves your attention instead of letting your attention be claimed without permission. And as your digital world becomes quieter, you will notice something profound. Your inner world becomes quieter too. Some of the most overwhelming forms of disorganization have nothing to do with cluttered rooms or scattered schedules. Sometimes the real disorder exists in your relationships. The people in your life can either add peace or pull you into emotional chaos. And when your life feels heavy, scattered, or constantly draining, it is worth asking whether someone in your environment is contributing to that weight. There are people who respect your time, your boundaries, your energy. These relationships feel balanced. You may not talk every day, but the connection feels steady, supportive, and real. And then there are people who take more than they give, who constantly demand, who pull you back into patterns you're trying to outgrow. These relationships leave you feeling tired after every interaction, anxious when your phone lights up, guilty when you try to take space, and confused about your own needs. When someone constantly drains your emotional or mental bandwidth, your life cannot feel organized because your energy is being spent managing chaos that isn't yours to carry. Recognizing this is not about judging others or labeling them as bad. It is about acknowledging the effect they have on your nervous system. Some people talk to you, and your shoulders tense without you realizing. Some people ask for favors, and you say yes automatically, even when you're exhausted. Some people share their problems, and suddenly you feel responsible for fixing them. This is emotional labor, and when it becomes constant, it depletes your ability to take care of yourself. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear conflict, guilt, or losing the relationship. You may worry that saying no will disappoint someone. You may worry that asserting your needs will make you seem selfish. But boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that protect your well-being. They are how you teach others how to treat you. They are how you maintain your emotional clarity and your sense of identity. If every time you try to organize your life, someone pulls you into their drama, their crises, their demands, or their expectations, you will stay overwhelmed no matter how many systems you create. You cannot live a calm life while trying to manage the emotional chaos of other people. Start by noticing how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you feel heavier or lighter? Do you feel seen or dismissed? Do you feel supported or used? Your emotional response is data. Your body speaks before your mind has the language. If someone repeatedly drains you, begins conversations only when they need something, ignores your feelings, or dismisses your boundaries, it may be time to step back, gently, steadily, without explanation if necessary. You do not owe emotional access to anyone who does not handle it with care. Sometimes the hardest boundaries are with people you care deeply about. Friends, family members, partners. Letting distance form can feel like betrayal. But staying in a relationship that overwhelms you is also a form of self-betrayal. You are teaching yourself that your peace does not matter, and that belief will follow you everywhere. Boundaries do not always need to be dramatic or confrontational. Sometimes a boundary is simply responding less, not explaining everything, saying, "I can't today," or choosing not to engage when someone tries to pull you into their emotional storms. It can be subtle and quiet. Consistency matters more than intensity. And remember, some people will not understand or respect your boundaries because they benefited from you not having them. Their discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means you are changing the pattern. You deserve relationships where your energy is not a resource to be drained, but a presence to be valued. You deserve space to think, breathe, and rest without being pulled into emotional responsibility for others. When you set boundaries, your life begins to feel different. Your mind becomes quieter because you're no longer carrying feelings that do not belong to you. Your days feel longer because your time is no longer being swallowed by someone else's urgency. Your self-respect grows because you are choosing yourself without apology. Your life cannot be organized unless your relationships are. Peace is not just about clean spaces and routines. Peace is also about who you allow in your world and how much access they have to your emotional life. When you protect your energy, you protect your clarity, and clarity is where everything begins. One of the most powerful truths you will learn about organizing your life is that time is not just something you use, it is something you experience. And many people feel overwhelmed not because they do not have enough time, but because they do not know where their time is actually going. When the days pass quickly, when weeks blur together, when life feels rushed and yet strangely unproductive, it is usually because your time is being slipped away in ways you don't notice, and what you cannot see, you cannot change. Tracking your time is not about micromanaging yourself. It is about becoming honest with yourself. It is about shining a light on the places where your hours leak away without intention. Because time is not only measured in minutes and hours, it is measured in attention. Whatever has your attention has your life. Most people underestimate how much time they lose to small distractions. 5 minutes scrolling on your phone turns into 30. One episode becomes half a season. Sitting down just to rest for a moment becomes an hour of avoidance. You may tell yourself you were busy all day, and yet, somehow, nothing truly meaningful got done. This is not laziness. It is unconscious living, moving through the day without awareness of where your time is being spent. To change this, you do not need to judge yourself. You simply need to observe. Spend one day not changing your behavior, not forcing productivity, just watching. Write down how you spend your time in half-hour increments. Or use a timer that goes off every hour and quickly note what you are doing. Not to criticize yourself, not to fix anything yet, just to see. You may discover patterns you didn't expect. Maybe you spend more time worrying about tasks than actually doing them. Maybe you lose hours to conversations that drain you. Maybe you check your phone dozens of times without realizing. Maybe your morning disappears in decision-making because you don't have a routine in place. Awareness is the beginning of clarity. Once you see where your time is going, you will notice something else. Your time is not just being spent, it is being taken, and often it is taken by habits that soothe discomfort or boredom. Scrolling is not about entertainment, it is about escape. Rewatching the same shows is not about enjoyment, it is about avoiding the emotional effort of starting something new. Constant multitasking is not about efficiency, it is about anxiety and restlessness. These are coping behaviors, and acknowledging them is not shameful, it is honest. As you track your time, you may feel discomfort, you may notice hours lost, you may recognize how much of your day is reaction rather than intention. This discomfort is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of awakening. You are seeing your life clearly, perhaps for the first time in a long time. From here, the shift happens gently. You do not need to restructure everything. You pick one time leak and you close it a little. If you find you scroll for an hour each evening, try reducing it to 40 minutes. If mornings feel rushed, try preparing one thing the night before. If conversations drain you, try ending one of them a little sooner. These small adjustments accumulate. They reshape your days not with force, but with awareness. And something profound happens when you begin giving your time direction. You start to feel more grounded. When you know where your time goes, life does not feel like it is slipping away. You begin to move with intention rather than impulse. You start to feel some agency returning to you. You may also notice your relationship with rest changing. When you spend your time consciously, rest feels earned, satisfying, nourishing, not guilty, not laced with avoidance. You can actually enjoy relaxing when you know you have shown up for yourself. Tracking your time is not about becoming rigid. It is about becoming present. It is about recognizing that you are not powerless in your life, that your days are shaped by choices, not just circumstances. And once you become aware of your patterns, you gain the ability to change them. Your life does not transform in a dramatic moment. It transforms quietly, in the awareness of how you are spending what cannot be replaced, your time. It is one thing to plan, it is another thing to act. Many people stay stuck in the planning stage because planning feels safe. It feels like progress. It gives you the illusion that you are doing something without requiring the emotional discomfort of actually taking action. You can spend days organizing schedules, rewriting to-do lists, watching productivity videos, buying planners, rearranging your desk, and yet nothing changes. Because real change begins only when you take the first small step, even when you don't feel ready. Readiness is one of the most misunderstood concepts when it comes to self-improvement. Most people wait for motivation, clarity, confidence, or energy before taking action. They believe that once they feel inspired enough, they will start. But motivation is not what leads to action. Action is what creates motivation. Movement generates momentum. The hardest part is the beginning, not the doing. Think of the mornings when you didn't want to get out of bed. But once you stood up, started moving, brushed your teeth, maybe drank some water, your energy shifted. Nothing magical happened. You just acted before you felt ready. This is a principle that can apply to every area of your life. The task does not get easier before you begin. It gets easier because you began. There is a psychological effect known as the Zeigarnik effect, which means that once you start something, your mind naturally wants to finish it. That's why taking the first step matters so much. A task that feels overwhelming in your head becomes manageable once you are physically engaged with it. Cleaning the entire apartment feels impossible, but wiping one countertop is doable. Writing a big report feels intimidating, but opening the document and typing one sentence is simple. The moment you break the inertia, the resistance begins to fade. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to starting is not the task itself, it is the emotional narrative around it. You might tell yourself, "This is too hard. I don't know where to begin. I always fail at this," or "I'll do it later." These thoughts aren't facts, they are stress responses rooted in past experiences, perfectionism, or fear of failure. And the most effective way to challenge these thoughts is not with debate or analysis, but with action. Even a tiny action is enough to disrupt the pattern. One effective technique is the 2-minute start. Whatever task you're avoiding, just do it for 2 minutes. Tell yourself you don't have to finish it. Just start it. Fold one shirt, write one sentence, wash 2 dishes, sort 1 email. 2 minutes is small enough that your mind won't rebel against it, but often, once you start, you keep going naturally. Starting is the doorway, and even if you only do 2 minutes and stop, that is still success, because you kept the promise to yourself, and that is the foundation of self-trust. Organizing your life is not actually about becoming more disciplined. It is about building self-trust. It is about becoming someone who does not abandon themselves, someone who follows through in small ways consistently. Self-trust grows from evidence. Every time you start when you don't feel ready, you create proof that you can rely on yourself. Every time you show up when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your identity, and once your identity shifts from someone who avoids to someone who acts, your entire life begins to change. It is also important to accept that progress is not linear. Some days you will move forward. Some days you will slip back into old patterns. That is normal. The point is not to be perfect. The point is to return, to restart, to not let one difficult day convince you that all progress is lost. Returning to the task again and again is what reinforces change. Think of a person learning to play piano. They do not wait to feel inspired every day. They practice, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when progress is slow, and little by little, what once felt impossible becomes natural. That is how change works, not through bursts of motivation, but through moments of quiet consistency. You do not need to conquer your whole life today. You only need to take the smallest possible step. The power is not in the size of the step. It is in your willingness to take it, even when you don't feel ready. When you choose to start, you reclaim control of your life one action at a time. Many people believe that organizing your life is about appearances. They imagine a life that looks impressive to others, a perfectly clean home, a flawless schedule, a career that sparkles, a social media feed that signals success. And yet, the truth is, life organization is not about how it looks. It is about how it feels. It is about creating an internal environment where your mind can rest, your decisions are clear, and your energy is available for what truly matters. Because a life that looks perfect but feels chaotic is still a life in disorder. You can have awards on your shelf, a spotless desk, and a structured calendar, but if your heart and mind feel heavy, your life is still out of balance. Many people chase the appearance of success while ignoring the invisible mess inside. They fill their lives with tasks, obligations, and distractions to appear productive. They chase external validation and, in doing so, neglect their emotional and mental well-being. A person can attend every meeting, respond to every message, post every photo, and check every box, and still feel scattered, anxious, and overwhelmed. Organization is not about the external checklist. It is about the internal experience of ease, clarity, and peace. To build a life that feels organized, you must start by asking yourself a simple question: what makes my life feel lighter? Not more impressive, not more validated by others, but lighter. This may be as simple as clearing a corner of your room so you can breathe when you enter it. It may be as subtle as creating a small habit of reflection each evening so your mind isn't chasing unfinished thoughts while you try to sleep. It may be saying no to a request that drains you so you have space to say yes to yourself. The answers are different for everyone, but the principle is the same. Prioritize emotional and mental clarity over appearances. A life that feels peaceful begins with small, intentional choices. It is about creating a rhythm that allows you to act with awareness rather than reaction. When your day is filled with things that serve your priorities and your well-being, the chaos begins to fade. You may not notice it immediately because it does not arrive in a dramatic way. It creeps in gently, like sunlight spilling into a room that had been dark. You start to notice that mornings feel calmer, evenings less rushed, and decisions easier to make. Your mind stops cycling endlessly, and your attention can settle where it belongs. Another essential element is learning to let go of things that do not serve your sense of peace. This applies not just to physical clutter or digital distractions, but also to commitments, habits, and even relationships that pull you away from clarity. People often feel obligated to do more than they can handle, to carry more than they should, and to fix what is not theirs to fix. The weight of unnecessary responsibilities is often invisible until you remove it, and when you do, the relief is immediate and transformative. You begin to understand that the life you desire is not created by doing everything. It is created by focusing on what truly matters. When your life begins to feel lighter, you also begin to notice how the external world responds. Tasks are easier to complete. Interactions feel less draining. Creativity flows more freely. Energy you thought was lost to chaos now becomes available to pursue your goals, your passions, and your relationships with attention and presence. You begin to move through your day with intentionality rather than reaction, and that intentionality becomes a form of strength you carry into every area of your life. Ultimately, organizing your life is about reclaiming control over your internal experience. It is about recognizing that clarity, calm, and peace are more valuable than appearances, busyness, or the approval of others. When you focus on how life feels, you naturally make choices that align with your well-being, rather than with external pressures. You start to live in a way that is supportive of yourself, instead of reactive to the chaos around you. And as you continue this process, you realize that organization is not a destination, it is a practice. It is the ongoing decision to prioritize clarity over clutter, peace over appearances, and intentionality over distraction. A life that feels good on the inside eventually manifests in harmony on the outside, not because you forced it, but because you nurtured it. The true measure of an organized life is not how it looks on paper, or on social media, or to the people around you. It is how it feels to be in it, to live it, and to navigate it with a quiet confidence that you are present, capable, and whole. You do not need to do all of this today. You do not need to transform overnight, but you do need to begin. Because when you organize your life, you don't just create more time, more clarity, more productivity, you create a version of yourself who trusts themselves again. You deserve that, your future deserves that, and the life you want is waiting for you on the other side of one simple decision.